What's up, guys? It's Rob here, and boy, oh boy, do I like what I'm seeing in the market. It is exactly what we were talking about in yesterday's video. We're going to cover what just happened and what is making the market look so green. Because look at this market map. It's absolutely crazy. Everything is skyrocketing. The S&P, along with many stocks, are just moving straight up, and we've got to talk about what just happened to cause this. Right? It's actually something that has to do with the Fed. And this is exactly what we were talking about in the video yesterday, right? Where we talked about the Fed, and analysts were expecting the Fed to crash the market when they raised rates by half a point, essentially doubling interest rates, right? So here's what happened today. The Fed raised rates by half a percentage point, the biggest rate hike in 2 decades, right? Ever since the 2000s. This is the biggest rate hike that we've seen. It doubled the rates from 0.5% to 1%. And the market is pumping on that news, right? It's pumping on that news, which is exactly what you would have expected not to happen if you were listening to analysts yesterday, right? Analysts were spelling doom and gloom for the stock market because of this big rate hike, the biggest in 2 decades. And I pointed out that it was kind of ridiculous that a rate hike doubling rates from 0.5% to 1% should be crashing the market, considering when you look at what rates looked like over all of history, they are so monumentally small compared to what we used to see in the past. It's absolutely ridiculous to think a rate hike like that would just crash the market. And unfortunately, a lot of analysts were talking about that. And that's exactly what we talk about in this video, where we say the Fed expected to crash stocks tomorrow. Know this, right? That's what we debunk in that video. While you're on the channel page, feel free to subscribe to the channel. But we've got to talk about what else the Fed said that is causing stocks to move up, right? Because obviously they've said some stuff, and analysts were thinking this would be bad news, but it turned out to be good news despite being the largest rate hike since 2000, right? So the Fed and Jerome Powell also said that raising rates by 0.75 points, right? This was a 0.5% rate hike, and they talked about raising rates by 0.75%. They said that's not something the committee is actively considering. So this was also good news to markets, right? This is essentially confirming what we on the channel already knew, right? The Fed is not going to sacrifice the market to save the dollar. And, unfortunately, there's still a lot of people out there who look at the stock market, and whenever they start to see stocks moving down a bit, right, they start to get very fearful. And it's understandable when you see your account moving down in a somewhat dramatic way over the course of a couple of weeks or months. It's understandable that you get some cold feet, but unfortunately, a lot of those people jump out right at the wrong time, right? In my opinion, at least. I think they jump out when the market's just starting to get to be a really good buying place, right? You can see the S&P over the past year, we were almost at 52-week lows. Just 3 days ago, we got to $405 on SPY. The 52-week low was $404. It's absolutely crazy that people are starting to sell out at 52-week lows. With what's going on, with how much cash has been printed over the past couple of years, and the paltry rate hikes that the Fed are implementing, right? I mean, a 0.5% rate hike is not going to stop 8.5% inflation, right? That's absolutely ridiculous. I would expect that we would continue to see prices move up, that we'll continue to see the value of the stock market move up. And, unfortunately, a lot of people, they listen to the mainstream media, they hear stuff like, analysts expect the Fed to crash the market tomorrow, and they end up selling out of this, right? They end up selling out of the market, which looks like it has a pretty darn good chart. Right, there are very few periods of significant decline, and we just went through a somewhat significant decline over the past couple of months. And when you sell this, you're actually buying this, right? You're buying this. This is a chart of the value of the dollar, okay, since the 1690s, and you just see it just goes down and down and down and down. And it's kind of crazy for me to see that people are selling out of this chart, which, sure, there's some downside on it on occasion, right? There are, I will admit, some downward periods where stocks do move down. But to buy into this, the dollar, and just perpetually be losing value over time does not sound like a good solution to me, right? It's not something that I think is very smart. And obviously, none of this is financial advice. I'm just giving you guys my opinion on it. But I tend to disagree when people end up doing that. And unfortunately, the mainstream media tends to push for that kind of thing. Whenever the going gets a little bit tough, they convince people to sell. And it more often than not, over the long term, or pretty much historically, it's always been a bad decision to be selling out of the overall market, right? Historically, the market's done very well. And, that's just my opinion, not financial advice. If you guys appreciate it, feel free to subscribe to the channel. That's what we've caught for you today. Just wanted to break down the Fed news. And other than that, guys, have a great day. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.